Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik, and welcome to our summer breakdown.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you, because you know she knows a thing or two. And now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
Mayim Bialik's breakdown is supported by Nutrafull. 30 million women are impacted by weakened or thinning hair. If, like me, you are among them, please know you're not alone, and there is a solution that you can trust to deliver results. Thousands of women have taken back control of their hair with Nutrafull, and many say that it doesn't only transform their hair, many say that it restores their confidence. Nutrafull has 2 targeted formulas for women that are clinically shown to improve hair growth and thickness with less shedding through all stages of life. More than 1,500 top doctors recommend Nutrafull as an effective, high-quality solution for healthier hair. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafull.com. Enter the promo code BREAK, save $15 off your first month subscription. This is their best offer anywhere, and it is only available to U.S. customers for a limited time, plus free shipping on every order. Get your hair back, get your confidence back, and get $15 off at Nutrafull.com. That's spelled Nutrafull.com, promo code BREAK. This summer's been a little bit different. We're doing some traveling. We're having some fun. So we don't want to leave you hanging without any MBB content. But let's say hello to Jonathan, the person who you never want to leave hanging. Jonathan, hello.
Hello. Happy summer.
Happy summer. I have a funny summer story to tell as we get into our unusual formats, our fun and loose formats for the summer. I have a shelving unit in my bathroom that holds all of my essential oils and a lot of my pretty things, and it has little glass containers. This shelving unit is hung by a professional human. As I was literally turning to walk out the door to go to the airport, my backpack hit the shelving unit, and the whole thing came crashing to the floor. So the patchouli broke. So the bathroom smelled like Venice Beach. And we had to literally go to catch a plane to the Yucatan Peninsula. Another thing I have a collection of is all of the medications that I've been given over the years for all the things they have tried to treat me for. Every time a medication hasn't worked, I save a few and I keep them as a reminder of basically like all the challenges I had trying to find the right medication. I have like a drinking glass size of a variety of pills. Okay, they're out of reach of children, blah, blah, blah. All those pills went crashing to the floor along with all my essential oils, glass shattered. Like literally my children are in the car and we're going to the airport. So I cried for a second. I took a video and sent it to Jonathan. And then I just closed the door and figured when I get back from Mexico, I'm going to deal with this. When I got home from Mexico, it was late in the evening and I had kind of forgotten. So I walked in and I knew I'm going to open that door and it's just going to be pills and oil and glass. And indeed it was. So I gathered it all together and I sent Jonathan a photo, which I think is actually a very artistic rendering of what was going on. It's just a collection of pills and seashells in my bath mat. Jonathan, would you like to show that photo to our friends? And I said, this is kind of an artistic rendition of just like literally everything all over the floor. And it was a real exercise in letting go and then a certain amount of denial. I picked up the patchouli oil because I didn't want the whole house to smell like patchouli. And the floors in my bathroom are just poured concrete. So that would have stained in a way that was not attractive. That was the start of my vacation. The first morning in Mexico, I rolled on my ankles so badly that it turned strange colors. And I'm actually shocked that I walked on it. Yeah.
I mean, no one thought you should walk on it.
Well, I went to Chichen Itza. I walked around Mayan ruins for 3.5 hours. I wore my supportive sneakers, Hoka, if you'd like to sponsor this show. I wore my Hokas and I felt fine. It looked horrendous. And on my very last morning, going to a store to buy a souvenir, I rolled on that ankle again on the way to the airport because it was already weak. And I was stepping down And Miles said, why didn't you step with your, quote, good foot? I said, because that would mean that my, quote, bad foot was supporting my weight as I stepped down. It was kind of a larger step. Anyway, yeah. And I rolled, didn't know you could roll and swell up the inside of your ankle, but I did.
Do you want to talk about the text that you sent me when you got back home?
Well, I wanted a lot of care and attention around this ankle. And you kind of were like, well, you shouldn't be on it. Rice. That's what you texted my child. The patient should be doing rice. Rest. What is it? Rest, ice, compression, exhaling? Elevation.
Exhaling, yes. Exhale really deeply.
Okay, so what happened? Then we start talking and you're like, this is what I'm reflecting on my life. This is how my summer's going. This is how I'm feeling. And I'm like, I just want you to tell me that you feel really badly about my ankle.
What you texted me was
Here we go.
out of the blue, nonetheless. Like totally, we hadn't spoken in a while. And then all of a sudden you text me the start of a thread. I think I may have to amputate my left pinky finger. With no context. You haven't mentioned that your pinky finger is sore. I've heard about the ankle. I've heard about a little bit of sunburning, just like random. And I says, any context for this? You say, nope. Since I landed, every time I bend it, it's incredibly painful. Like so painful, it gives me chills, then correction to like. I know you're busy building your creative empire, so I won't take away from that. Slightly sarcastic and a little bit aggressive. Just letting you know my body is beyond sending me signals, and we are into the body just creating noise. I was supposed to do stuff with Aaron on TikTok tomorrow, etc., play music. Okay. But I think I need to rest. To which I said,
Uh-oh.
This is a great text exchange. It was my reply.
We're just letting everyone know what summer's really like over here.
Which is not the right answer. And then we got into a conversation.
You mean sending me a clip of myself telling people to take care of themselves and listen to their bodies? Maybe that wasn't the most effective thing after someone's been on an airplane with 2 sick children who don't have COVID. After that's what you sent. You send a clip of myself, which literally leads to a complete dissociation and depersonalization.
Let's play the clip and see what people think.
Pretend you're me. If someone sends you this clip when you're having a hard time, would it be helpful or not? Jonathan has taught me that there is a tremendous value in listening to your body. Listening to your emotional state, listening to your physiological state. I hate my voice. That's all I think when I hear that. I hate my voice, and I hate that I fell, and I hate that everything's all over the floor. And Jonathan's like, I've been feeling really good this week. Great.
I have been. I've been feeling great lately.
Summer's treating you well. Let's share some of our best of. If that wasn't, that's one of my favorite exchanges that we've had all week. If that's not enough, we have a very special episode of some of our best ofs collected by our fantastic team over here at our breakdown. The episode that people are about to experience is something that you and I have thought really should be created from day zero. Like before we created any content, we envisioned this episode. Jonathan, what's this episode?
Just super cuts of us talking?
It's just the best of us. But it is some of our favorite things, our favorite moments, our favorite interactions. Mostly you teasing me is what I think.
That's what you're imagining this episode is.
I think that's what most of our best moments are.
Our producers are working around the clock, extracting the little bits to make the perfect mashup episode of all the funniest moments, all the insight that you drop. You have so many smart things that you say.
You have some smart things you say as well. It's the best of all those things. So, yes. And we hope that you will enjoy, again, this is our attempt at being fun and loose, summer edition of The Breakdown. And we'll see you all in the fall.
This game is called What Mayim Hears.
Okay.
I say something, and you pretend we're in that scenario, and you rapid fire without thinking, say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Now, I tend to be boyish, but this is going to be a very gendered conversation. I can already feel it coming.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes. We're not together. We're in a different city. You text me, you say, can you talk? I say, I can't talk right now. You hear.
I don't have time for you. There are things far more important than you. The novelty has worn off. Maybe I'll have time later.
Okay. Next, we are in the same city. We're hanging out. You say, let's go for a walk. I say, maybe we'll walk later. You hear.
You always get to decide what we do. Why don't my needs matter? Should I be in this relationship?
We are not together. We're in two different cities. We're making plans of when we are going to see each other. You ask, when are you driving down? I say, I'm not sure what day I'm driving down yet. Mayim hears.
Everything is more important to me than this person. Also, she's put on a few
keep going.
pounds.
What's that?
Also, she's put on a few pounds. She's not what she once was.
Because if you were, then I would drive
That's
faster.
right.
Okay. We're in the studio, and I say, can you play some music to intro our musical guests? And you hear.
He wants to embarrass me. He doesn't understand anything about the way the world works. I'm going to be humiliated. I'm horrible. And he wants everyone to see that.
You're doing great so far. We're together. I say you're doing great so far. We're on a podcast. You hear.
He's guilty about something and trying to make me feel better because he's going to tell me he's cheating on me or something.
Okay. We're deciding what guests can possibly come on the podcast. I say maybe insert any person's name there will come on the podcast. You hear.
He's trying to usurp my position as a human. He doesn't know anything. And also, I hate myself.
I say I'm happy right now and things are going great. You hear.
He's in denial. He needs more therapy.
I say I'm allergic to cats. You hear.
If he really loved me, he'd stop being allergic to cats.
And that's our little episode we call What Mayim Hears.
What Mayim hears. This is a little game that I like to call, What Does Jonathan Hear? What I'd like you to answer is either what do you hear or what do you think I mean that is insidious and oppressive?
Fantastic. I'm excited.
What does Jonathan hear? What do you hear when I say, let's go to my mom's?
I need support. Don't make me go alone. Why can't you be with me at all times so that I don't have to deal with life alone? Go on.
Okay, accurate. You're doing great. Jonathan, what do you hear when I say, are you okay?
Why won't you open up? You don't tell me anything about what's happening. Why can't you give me a live stream of every thought and feeling you've had since the last time I've asked for a live stream of your experience?
That's amazing. That's exactly what I'm asking. Jonathan, what do you hear when I say, do I look fat in this?
I ignore that question. Go on.
What do you hear when I say, why am I so fat?
Nope. Also a pass.
What do you hear when I say, why do you like to hang out with me?
I hear, do you have a Nancy session anytime soon?
Nancy's my therapist. What do you hear when I say, let's call your parents to say hi? If we could have a close up, if we can zoom in on what happened to his face when I said that, what do you hear when I say, let's call your parents to say hi? Let's call your parents to say hi. His eyebrows went in a direction that eyebrows shouldn't go in.
What I hear when you say, let's talk to my parents, is like your headphone jack gets plugged into that thing and then it's just static.
You mean
Not because I shouldn't call them, but I'm like, what does she want to hear me talk about them and like evaluate how I'm treating them and what they say to me? And is that relationship healthy?
That's really interesting. I thought you were going to say that you hear like, let's be more serious. Like, I want to be up in your parents' business.
I want them to acknowledge that I am a significant part of his life and know how important I am.
Oh my goodness. Is that that's what you hear?
No, I just hear static.
What do you hear when I say, what should we do tonight?
Make a decision. How come you don't plan anything? Why don't you treat me like I'm special by showing me how much you care about me by having elaborate plans for us to do together? And if you loved me more, you would make me art, write me poems, and every free moment of time that we have together would be planned into something beautiful to express your love for me.
Excellent. You're doing great. What do you
that
hear?
That is what you mean, isn't it?
What do you hear when I say...
But hold on.
Yeah,
what do
totally
you,
what I hear.
What do you hear when I say, whatever you want? I don't care about you.
No. When you say whatever you want, it makes me want to tear your eyeballs out of your head and shove them in your nostrils.
That's what you get for being agreeable, people.
No, because when you say whatever you want, what I hear is, I'm going to let you think that you're deciding, but chances are I'm not going to like it, and I'll throw it up to you in approximately 18 days.
Mayim, what do you hear when I say, I need a second angle?
I'm taking over your show, and I will assassinate you and hide the body and carry on your legacy.
And that will be my desk soon, and I will learn to play the piano, and no one will miss you.
Okay, last one.
Yeah.
What do you hear when I say, why did she get that job and I didn't?
Also, I hear Nancy's number on speed dial.
Mayim and Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp. You know how well you take care of your car? Imagine if you had to keep the same car your whole life, how much better you would take care of it. Well, that's also how your brain works, so we really need to treat our brains that way too. How we care for our brains and our minds, it affects how we experience all of life. It is very important to invest time and care into keeping your brain healthy. There's so many ways to support a healthy brain. Learning a new language, taking power naps, eating healthy food. There's also BetterHelp online therapy. I love therapy, big fan of therapy, can't live without it. BetterHelp is online therapy, and they have video, phone, and even live chat-only therapy sessions. You don't have to see anyone on camera if you're not ready to. And also, it's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and super quick, you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/break. That's betterhelp.com/break. Mayim and Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Best Fiends. You know, they say happiness comes from the inside, but that's not always true. Taking part in a little playful competition can make you smile just as much. Inner peace is great and all that, but you know what's better? Making it to level 1000 in Best Fiends, which I did a little bit ago. And that's what true satisfaction feels like. I literally threw a party for me and two friends. And we had cupcakes with the Best Fiends creatures on top. We made little pictures. You collect tons of these little fiends that get powered up as you play more levels. Every win brings new challenges, and there are thousands to play. There's also in-game events all the time. You don't have to pay for things if you don't want to, which is awesome. You can have so much fun without even making purchases, but there is also a lot of really cool stuff. And there are thousands of levels. There's always more to play. Let enough is never enough be your mantra, and join me in falling in love with Best Fiends. Download Best Fiends for free from the App Store or Google Play, and earn even more with $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5, which is so easy. Keep going. Tell me when you reach level 1570. That is friends without the R, Best Fiends. I mean, here, I'm going to just do a quick example. Sorry, my eyes are itchy, which is like an immune response to stress. What I imagine, which sounds like insane, would be like, could I get to a meditative place, I don't know, or whatever, where like I'm not thinking of myself the way I've been trained to think about myself, right? Like, is there a version of Mayim that's like so beautiful and like her body is perfect and like we love her just the way she is and like she's not annoying. She's not arrogant. She's like just this awesome person that everybody wants to talk to. like that.
She's not reactive.
She's not
calm,
reactive. She doesn't have any diagnoses. She's fine.
She's
perfect.
accepting.
Right.
So how can we not have all those things when we're constantly in a thought cycle that we are those things and we're reinforcing them?
Right.
And then we reinforce them mentally, and then physically we feel anxious because we're annoying, we're reactive, have a diagnosis, and then we feel anxious because, oh my gosh, I think of these things about myself.
Jonathan, why are my eyes itching?
Because we're saying true things that you're having a reaction to, and your body is physically programmed to have a reality that it understands. And as you begin to push yourself outside of that reality, you have somatic responses.
So
like, okay, you asked me on the Corey Taylor episode, oh, you're really going at it right now. You're having a total somatic freak out.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Because you don't want to see that we have a major role in what we're experiencing. And you asked me in the Corey Taylor episode how I knew about clearing the apartment complex. And I was like evasive about it because I feel shy. And I think that people, honestly, I think people like you with very scientific backgrounds who have a very strong command of language and who are very analytical are going to sort of rip down my experience. But I've spent 20,000 hours monitoring and witnessing people have somatic reactions to emotional responses and doing hands-on work where they guide that through. And when we bring up levels of limited thinking to see the reaction that people physically have as their autonomic nervous system goes into a repair function is profound. And there is a connection. There is a connection between the thought feedback loop that we have and the physical reactions we have, and that we limit our body's ability to repair and get back into some form of homeostasis because we're constantly thinking about the limits or the diagnosis or the anticipatory reaction that we're going to get from some major problem. And I'm not immune to it at all.
No, you're certainly not, but that's for another episode. And everything you've said, is true. The word that I said I don't like to use. Everything you have said, like you haven't said anything that is not, that we don't know, honestly, is true in our existence.
I think the freak out is that your body's like, what if we do step out of this like part that we're contributing to our limit? Because I think we all want to move outside of whatever limits that we're struggling with.
I'm just, you know what I think it is? I think I'm hitting my limit. I'm being totally serious. So what's happening for those of you who are not watching is I've had nothing's going on in this room. Like we've been sitting here for hours. There's no new smells. Like Scott, you don't wear cologne, do you? No.
And he's been in the room for hours.
He's been in the room for hours.
So
I have not used any new detergent or any new hair product. The kind of scientific explanation for what's happening, the basic scientific explanation, is that when certain chemicals reach a certain level, many of which can be related to stress or immunity, our body will start reacting with a heightened immune response. So I'm a person also who's hyperallergic in general. Like my allergic system operates the way my emotional system does. Like I don't just get a mosquito bite. Like I get an elaborate allergic reaction that looks like it needs medical attention, and it will persist for days and days, and it will get infected and like all these things. Like I'm that person. So what we know is that an elevated stressor in anyone's life, it raises your baseline. So if you've ever wondered why you're, for example, irritable when you're in pain, part of it is that all of your system is up, is already up to your nose. So if any little thing happens, it's gonna spill out the top of your head.
Explain why this conversation would have your immune system react like that.
So this is where it gets a little dangerous because you may think, that but there is not an absolute truth to what, in this case, activated this allergic reaction.
What do you think?
Well, I'm going to think the thing that's less impactful, which is that we've been talking about really intense things. I had really high expectations of this interview. Like we ended up not getting to talk to him as long as I wanted. So I felt like a little bit anxious about that. And
sorry, I cut you off, but your very physical eye itching, almost uncontrollable eye itching happened only after you talked about all the ways that you have a narrative about who you are,
Right.
and I began to talk about how much time do you
Yes,
spend
and that-
outside of that narrative, and if we track just the timing of the conversation, that's what you physically reacted to.
It could be.
Why do you think that specific topic, which, I have my theory, which is
because
that
I mean,
it's
because it
pushing you outside of a comfort zone of
Yeah,
what you're used to.
it brings up a tremendous amount, of of activation, of a system that is used to resisting. However, thinking as a scientist, what's to say that this is going to be our promo? What's to say that the sound of your voice and the image of your face, for all the years I've known you, didn't all of a sudden cumulatively cause such inner disgust and repulsion that my body started elevating adrenaline and epinephrine. Just like everything was just like, nah, get out. Could also be it.
And this is why I don't tell you things. Let's do an Ask Mayim Anything.
Okay, I was thinking of trash talking you. But
Oh, let's do that first.
No, it's fine.
No, you go.
No, it's going to get mean fast. He said you can't talk about people's mom. That's my favorite thing to give you shit about.
So you're already doing it wrong.
Oh, I've done my research.
That's trash talk right
You're
there.
so sensitive. I can't even pick on you about your mom. Why are you so sensitive, bro?
You're not allowed to name call. That's another thing.
Your head's a funny shape.
What type of funny shape is
It's
it?
got a weird shape in the back.
That's why I wear my hat.
Your hair fell out in a weird pattern.
That's why I shave it. What else? Keep going. This is good. You're doing well. What about my extra ankles? Should I be writing? Should I be writing your trash talking?
I say that Jonathan's essentially a newborn giraffe. And I say he has gorilla arms because I literally think they hit the ground. You'll be like, oh shit, I wish you could reach that thing. And he's like, go gadget arms. He can reach anything.
Sometimes I say, you want to put some food through that hole where your tooth should be? Oh, that went too far.
I think this game is over. Jonathan, do you have anything to say about hunger cues?
I have a ton to say here. One is that I want to dispel any myth that this type of lack of hunger cues or relationship with food is at all a female or only thing. I think it gets attributed a lot to women, and women talk a lot more about it. I had the same thing. My family, constant grazer, constant snacks. All my friends used to be like you never stop eating.
You
and I
don't.
would pack food.
You don't stop eating.
I mean, I prevent, and I don't associate myself with having an eating disorder necessarily. And I'd love to sort of outline like what are the things that maybe if someone has no concept that they might fall into this category, what should we look for? But let's not do that.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. But for me, like I would preventatively eat because what would happen is I would crash so hard that I would start to feel delirious. Like my ex, when I was married, she would carry snacks for me because like we would go to Costco and then like I'd become a monster. I couldn't focus. I didn't know where I was going. And I started to actually develop I started training myself because it used to be that when I woke up in the morning, if I didn't eat, I felt nauseous and like almost physically sick within 15 to 20 minutes. But then I heard about people like who intermittently fast. And I heard that if you're grazing all the time, your digestive system is constantly working. And so that is actually quite bad for us because we're putting a lot of energy into our digestion instead of into the reparative functions of some of our other processes that we need. So I started to be like, well, how can I start to adjust that? So I started to push myself a little bit. And I would tell myself like, I feel this sensation like I'm dizzy and I'm about to die. But like any other emotion, I'm going to sort of breathe through it and get through it. And I started pushing myself to the point where I didn't have to eat right when I woke up. And I started developing a different relationship with my hunger cues. And by no means am I solved because sometimes I don't feel hungry at all and I'm wondering why. And sometimes I still get to the point where I feel really sick from not eating or from having that crash. But I think the idea that we all have to reevaluate what is the signal that is driving us to eat. When are we really hungry versus when are we feeling another emotion that we associate with food? And then also, how do we, understand what do we really need in order to survive versus, whatever other role food is playing in our lives? we spend the least amount of time shopping, prepping, thinking. And some people have gone the other way where you're like, oh, we're super foodies. But a lot of people, like you're ordering Uber Eats. Does our lack of actually touching food, chopping food, cooking food impact our hunger signals? Because now it's like, I think I'm hungry, I'm just going to order something, and then then it's done. Like the interaction is so fast. Like, is there part of us that needs the ritual of actually cooking, prepping, thinking about that we're going to eat, prep it, like, because there's a preparation that happens in our body that when we're cooking before we start to just consume.
Yeah, and super duper shout out to religious traditions that pray before they eat. And you know, in our tradition, we pray after we eat. And one of the things that is so meticulous and ritualized about a lot of the practices of religious Judaism in particular, there's a prayer for every kind of food. There are categories of food, and you bless each category independently, unless you break bread, because bread is it's like a super blessing. But that notion, which like my children, I try and do that literally on Shabbos. I try and do it one day a week, and it is so painful for my children to wait. Just wait. We're gonna bless the wine, grape juice. We're gonna bless the challah. You're going to wait. And then you also have to wash your hands and bless it and wait. And like, it is so painful. And when I'm with my religious family or religious friends, there's such a mindfulness because everyone's on that plane of timing about food.
You know, I think a lot about how technology impacts our psychology, our neurobiology, and our physiology. And I do really wonder a lot about how the speed and access to things in our lives are changing our perception of them. So does it change, like you consume that burger, you wolf it down while you've done 7 other things. You've only, the amount of time you spend to get it and to think about it is only a few minutes, and then a few minutes consuming it. Maybe it changes our hunger signals. Maybe it changes how full we feel. And then when we want our next meal. And I think that's like, we're at the beginning of something very different in our evolutionary history.
People are going to be impacted by social media differently. What's anxiety provoking for many of us around social media is the frequency with which we need to check.
Yeah.
And the frequency with which information comes in and the volume of information that comes in. Those things, no matter what I don't care if you're looking up only rescue shelters that are in need of animals for you to adopt. The volume of information, the speed at which it comes in, that promotes anxiety for, I'd say, a lot of people. One of my favorite experiments to do to see how anxious you are because of your phone/social media in particular, leave it in the car. Next time you go somewhere, just leave it in the car. You're going for a walk, leave it in the car. You going to meet a friend for coffee or at an outdoors restaurant, safe distance with a mask, leave it in the car and see what happens. Don't plug it in next to your bed at night. See what happens. Stop using it after 9 p.m. and see what happens.
We're not responsible if your car gets broken into and stolen.
Don't use it until after you've had breakfast in the morning. And what's going to happen is you're going to feel very, very strange. That's anxiety. There's something about funny actor energy that I don't like you around. I don't like how you act.
You don't like jokes? You don't like fun?
No, I think it's...
What happens?
I don't know.
I laugh. You don't like laughing unless it's laughing with you. Unless you're the joke teller.
No, I think, in all seriousness, I think like Justin, he's a very, very... he's a very sweet guy. Like he's like a good guy. He's like a guy that if I, got to work with him, it would be really fun and really awesome. But yeah, there's something about when I'm with people like that who like, it's a lot of my life is like that personality and like working with. There's something about having you part of it that feels very like, stay out. I'm just being honest.
Again, hoarding all the fun for yourself. Jonathan, you can talk to doctors. You can talk to experts who want to talk about the brain, but no one who tells jokes.
Mayim Bialik's breakdown is supported by Ritual. Does your probiotic contain clinically studied strains? Well, meet one that does. Ritual's Synbiotic Plus contains 2 of the world's most studied strains with over 350 publications in human clinical trials. We love starting out every day with Ritual, and especially Synbiotic Plus, because the thing about Ritual is all of their components are science-backed, research-stacked, especially if you stack them up against the leading direct-to-consumer and top-selling probiotics on the market, and that matters. Ritual is more than a probiotic. It's a 3-in-1, prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic to support a balanced gut microbiome. Ritual is single-nested in a minty capsule, and all it takes is 1 a day for simple, streamlined gut support. Synbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. There's no more shame in your gut game. That's why Ritual is offering our listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/breakdown, start Ritual, or add Synbiotic Plus to your subscription today. Mayim and Bialik's breakdown is supported by Pear Eyewear. We define who we are as people in so many different ways. Are you a crafting whiz? A karaoke slayer? Are you a cool aunt who plays D&D? Hey there. Individuality is a combination of all the things we do to express ourselves, and you are a unique mashup of all your favorite things. There are so many ways that you can express yourself. How about you celebrate all that you are and explore who you can be with customizable prescription glasses from Pear Eyewear? Oh, look at me. My base frame is blue. And then I have actually 2 pairs that go over. These are kind of like a psychedelic. Change up your look in a snap, like I just did. Pear Eyewear's base frame and magnetic top frame combination makes it easy to switch up your style. Get glasses as unique as you are. 1 pair, infinite style. Starting at $60, go to paireyewear.com/Mayim for 15% off your first purchase. That's 15% off at paireyewear.com/Mayim. Body dysmorphia is the term used to describe people who have a skewed and inaccurate perception of their physical presence. And what this means is that there's nothing wrong with your eyeballs. There's nothing wrong with the mirror you're looking at or the physical lens that you're looking with, but there is miscommunication between the representation of your body and the way your brain processes it. And this is different than hating your body, which many people don't like their body. Body dysmorphia tends to revolve around a particular region of the body. For example, someone might fixate on their nose, and we're not just talking like, I don't like my nose, I want to get a nose job. We're talking that there's not an accurate perception of what that part of your face looks like, to the point that it becomes an obsession and a fixation. It often will lead to, yes, in some cases, repeated surgeries and manipulations. But even beyond that, there's not a way to make it look right, because what's wrong is it's not the eyeballs and seeing, but the way we see ourselves. And body dysmorphia can often be treated, usually with SSRIs. So the same things that are used to treat kind of classical depression tend to help body dysmorphia. Does that mean that everyone who has body dysmorphia is depressed? No. Do most people who have body dysmorphia also experience other challenges that might be of the depressive, anxious variety? Yes. It's not the kind of thing that is helpful if you have body dysmorphia for other people to tell you look good, or that there's nothing wrong with your thighs or your hair or whatever part of you. And that can also move around. Like, you could be a person who has body dysmorphia and, 1 month it's your eyes and then it shifts. But being told you look good doesn't help. Being shown, different pictures of yourself, those things don't work. It's very, very frustrating.
Why do SSRIs help that?
Oh, well, the brain is redundant, to a certain extent. We only have so many chemicals. And there are pathways and deficiencies that can get activated for a lot of reasons. And one of the systems that is active in that kind of perpetuation of that kind of loop happens to be one that is sensitive to serotonin. Narcissism, named for Narcissus, that guy who fell into the pond looking at his own reflection, correct?
That is correct.
It is a diagnosis. Like, just it is a diagnosis. And the diagnosis is narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD.
And it's a problem or a tendency? They say a lot of narcissistic people get ahead in life, but they're hated often.
So people who are narcissists tend to be extremely self-focused and self-centered, meaning centered around themselves, and that can be a very ambitious kind of person. But the thing with people who are classic clinical narcissists is that there's often an inability to fully engage emotionally. And interactions with these individuals can be very, very difficult. It can often feel like being ignored and rejected when it's really the person's lack of ability to give or consider anything but themselves. And narcissistic personality disorder is also characterized by people who really see the entire world through their lens, meaning other people's experiences also really are only relevant as they relate to them. Having a narcissist as a parent is very, very difficult. Often leaves the child feeling, abandoned, neglected. Having a narcissist as a partner, also very, very complicated. Narcissistic personality disorder is a disorder. So there are differences between diseases and syndromes and disorders. And the fact is, I'm going to go ahead and say that just about anyone can change. However, the degree to which people can change may not be what you expect. And it takes a lot of time and work for someone who is a clinical narcissist to be able to do the kind of work to not gain that diagnosis, meaning that it is a very specific personality disorder. And that actually is an entire category of mental health challenges, is personality disorders. So there's obsessive compulsive personality disorder as distinct from OCD, distinct from obsessive compulsive disorder. Many other personality disorders, borderline is a personality disorder. And I'm just going to say that things that have the moniker personality disorder, what that's telling you is that's a very deeply programmed and ingrained part of who that person is. Does that mean that they can't change? No, but that's going to be pushing a boulder up a hill a little bit.
And there's levels to it, right? You could have a sprinkle of narcissism.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. It's like everybody's got a little bit of everything. And, some people, yell at their partners like, "You're being such a narcissist."
That just means that you're not doing what I want you to, right?
A little bit. I've been taught that dreams are symbolic.
Not him.
Let's pick a dream that I could have woken up and been like, must pursue this. Like, are there donkeys with wings? Let me go find them.
Do you have a recurring donkeys with wings dream?
I do.
This is the first I'm hearing about this.
Name me a dream of yours that you think maybe we shouldn't take literally.
I mean, I fly sometimes. I have a recurring flying dream.
Right.
I've never flown.
Do you have a better example, bro?
I mean, I had a recurring dream that actually came true, but I didn't go pursue it.
Whoa.
I had a recurring dream about the town of Ashland that I wrote to you about and I told you about, that I showed up and it was like this extremely distinct place, and the geography is what made it so specific. There was like a river next to a downtown area, and I ended up in this town in 2018.
In real life.
In real life. I walked downtown for the first time and I was just struck. I was hit so hard by this recurring dream that I had. I had it about like once a week for several years.
Okay, that's weird, babe.
And then
you're telling a weird story. I mean, weird in a good way, but I feel like it's a little bit of a different story.
I
was looking for dream. I once dreamt that I joined the circus, but I didn't do it. Instead, Jonathan's like, I speak to the universe and it sends me messages of where I should live. Like, that's a different story.
Well, this was not necessarily permanent living. I was on this road trip in the dream, and I was arguing with my then partner, and we got to this town. We pulled over on this road trip. And
Is this real life or the dream?
This is the dream. And then we park there, and I just turned to her, and I'm like, can we rest here a little while? And like there was so much tension in the car from...
Cut to, we live here now.
We do, but I don't think we're living there forever. And
Okay,
I had forgotten about that dream.
This just took a turn.
I had totally forgotten about that dream until I then walked in that downtown, and I hadn't had it for like 5 years, that dream, but I was like totally struck. I'm like, holy shoot, this is the location of
Canadians
the dream
also don't curse.
that I had been having for years and years prior to that, and it like totally freaked me out.
One of my favorite things that we do here at Mayim and Bialik's Breakdown is to break down the science behind things that people don't often know have science that relate to mental health. And gratitude is one of them. And, you know, I'm kind of allergic to positivity, meaning like I'm not...
You hate when I'm positive.
No, I'm just like, I wouldn't say I'm like an optimistic, positive person. Like that's just not, it's not my vibe.
I was kidding, by the way. You like
no,
positive.
No, I do, but I much more resonate with gratitude and an attitude of gratitude, which...
Because there can be false positivity, which is a whole other problem.
Yeah, and like it's me, it's not you. You know, I'm very sensitive to false positivity or to kind of...
Spiritual bias.
No, or like super... Sometimes it can feel superficial to me or it can feel inauthentic. But what's interesting is that there have been some really interesting studies, scientific studies about gratitude. And some of the things, you know, you can kind of dismiss if you'd like to. I mean, the studies report, there was a study of, I think, 300 college students that was done. And, you know, they found that like depression markers decreased when people were asked to like write gratitude letters every day and things like that. But enter functional MRI machine. That's right. fMRI is our friend. And there have been gratitude studies that have been done when people are in an MRI scanner. And I'm happy to describe what an MRI scanner does another day. My undergraduate thesis, we used functional MRI. It's showing blood flow and brain activity. And there are things that we can infer from the patterns that we see and the changes in blood flow and therefore oxygen delivery to different parts of the brain. And gratitude seems to activate the medial prefrontal cortex, which is generally associated with learning and decision making. So the idea is that when we experience gratitude, when we express gratitude, our brain is rewiring in some ways. And I'm not saying that as like the brain can rewire. I'm literally talking about when you express and have access to things that you can be grateful for, even if, fill in the blank, it allows your brain to start learning and accepting and being open in a new way. And that's one of the things that 12-step programs in particular are big on is gratitude lists. You know, when you wake up, can you be grateful about 3 things without feeling guilty about it, without feeling like, oh, but also this is going on and I shouldn't be. You have a right to experience gratitude, and it's good for your brain.
And it can be little things, too. That's what people don't understand. They're
Totally.
like, my life has to be perfect in order to have gratitude.
You know what my list sometimes sounds like? Cats.
Just that they exist.
Just cats. Patience. I often just have gratitude for patience. The gift of pausing is something all I can like get my head around in the morning. I'm just grateful that I've learned that I don't have to instantly react to everything. I'm grateful for the gift of recovery, that I can experience things bigger than myself. But those notions of gratitude, it puts a different lens on your day. Your lens of looking and listening to yourself is also, let's talk about your pants.
Okay.
I bought Jonathan a pair of pants.
Yes. You did.
And
I love them.
That's great. So you went to the store and you returned them for a bigger size, which completely your prerogative.
Exchanged.
So when I said to you, this is a demonstration of the lens.
Okay.
When I said to you, so those actually aren't the pants that I got you.
No,
what did you say?
That's not the first thing you said to me.
They
You
are.
said, "Are those the pants that I got you?" And I said, "Yes." Because I know, number one, that you have like this very, like, it's very important to you that you picked out something that I like. So,
and now you went and returned it. And got
but
a different
I
size.
didn't return it because I didn't like it, which is what I knew
No,
you were
and
at. But hold on.
Right.
I knew you were like, did Mayim pick something that Jonathan was like, oh, wow.
No, I know you love it.
Jonathan really likes this. So I said, yeah, they are the exact pants, which
They're not the exact pants.
actually I didn't say that. I said, yes, they're the pants. And you said, but I added, I didn't lie to you. And then I added that I returned them for a different size.
Right.
Exchanged them, actually,
Right.
is what I said.
Right.
And then you said, so they're not the same pants. I said, they're the same pants. They're the same style. They're the same color.
But they're not
They're the same fabric.
So then
They are not the exact pair that you gave me, but they're the same pants.
if Byron Katie were to say, is it true those are the same pants?
They are the same pants. They are not the exact same pair that you handed me, but they are the same pants.
One of my problems with Jonathan is he redefines words and concepts to benefit him.
Let's take a poll.
So if we were to videotape you talking about anything so that you could have evidence that people misunderstood you, you would still think it was their problem, not yours.
Correct. Poll on @Bialik Breakdown.
Are those the same pants?
Are they the same pants?
Like nothing gets lost.
I mean, but it sounds like lost in the sense is a good thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the mark of your experience lives in your brain. It lives in your body. You could say it lives in your soul. Like, I don't want to get deep, but speaking strictly from like a neuroscience perspective, yeah, that has happened to you. And I think there's something in between. Does it get lost and does it lay dormant? And what that is that you gain coping mechanisms and you gain skills and you gain perspective, which is kind of like this amorphous term, but what perspective really is a set of coping mechanisms that allow you to place your trauma in its true place. A lot of people who experience flashbacks or who have blackouts or things like that related to memory, you're often reminded to like, is this happening now? And it sounds like such a ridiculous thing because like you think like, oh, this is for people who have a very strong trauma response, you can feel like you are in another place. That's actually the definition of a flashback. Is not that you're remembering something, is that your physiological state is in a different, time. So part of that perspective is learning to be able to reorient. And it takes a certain amount of skills to be able to say like, oh, these are the tools, like, oh, these are trigger signs, these are warnings. If I watch that movie, this is going to happen. And so like avoiding things that are going to be triggering. Yeah, I also don't want people to think like, oh, if I have trauma, it's going to like live with me forever. I'm never going to quote, get over it. You absolutely can thrive, beyond just surviving. You can thrive if you've had trauma. But yeah, it absolutely does take learning skills that typically do come from, either a professional or many resources. Yeah, I think,
I think that's a good answer.
Okay.
Also, I think not to open up a totally other topic area because these things are not related universally, but like in some ways, when you have a trauma response like that, time is nonlinear.
Yeah.
And
well, people will be like, "Oh, with time it'll get better." Not necessarily.
No, but I've had that experience too,
right?
Where I've like lost it at something that's seemingly fairly non-threatening.
Trivial.
No. That's not where I was going. Not relationship counseling currently. But where it's something that objectively there isn't a huge risk, but I have a really strong reaction to it. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. That is something that's, all right, you're being really serious.
No, what I'm saying is like, yes. And the fact is, no, I'm agreeing because I've witnessed this. I think that's an important point though, that the notion's not, well, that happened 40 years ago. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Or, oh, you're very young. That happened 35 years ago. What's wrong with you? Or that happened 20 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Or
we're marked by our experiences, but it doesn't mean you
Correct.
still can't thrive.
If someone needs help, if you need help or someone else needs help, how do you start to bring up those questions and be supportive?
I think in general, when trying to figure out how to broach these kind of topics, one of my general guidelines is to use I statements. Because especially if someone's struggling, it's very, very hard to hear you this, you that. I'm noticing that you blah, blah, blah. So an I statement is not, I'm noticing that you're a wreck, right? An I statement would be, I've been noticing that in our interactions, we're not connecting like we usually do. I'm noticing that we don't seem to do the same things that we used to do together. That's if someone is isolating. So I think trying to keep it about your experience of either missing or wanting to, interact with the other person I think that's more powerful than sort of, as we say, reading them their inventory, saying, you're doing this, you're doing that, especially if it's someone who's struggling with alcoholism or addiction, saying, you drink too much,
That never goes well.
That never goes well, and that should be remembered. So I think what I know from personal experience is you can't make anyone go to therapy. It is something that person does have to come to on their own. If someone is a danger to themselves or others, there's obviously a very different protocol. But part of what I'd like to advocate for is keeping the focus on yourself and your wellness when someone else is struggling, meaning they still need to have their own process. And we don't know what someone's bottom is. That's an expression we use in alcoholism, but we don't know what someone's emotional bottom is either. I think it's always important. I have someone in my family who is really she's not in touch with me the way I'd like her to be, but telling her that is not necessarily helpful. But saying to her, I miss our interactions. I miss being able to hear what's going on in your life. That's preferable to me saying, you seem to be isolating. You're not calling me. What's wrong with you?
You've described yourself as being very aware and connected to other people's emotions.
To a detriment to myself.
To a detriment to yourself. Do you find that do you have any techniques or approaches to sort of being an engaged listener where you're sort of not taking on the pain of the person?
It's a great question, and it's actually something that I was just texting with my mother about last night. She interacted with a person who's a perfectly nice person. Like, it was nothing about that. Nothing about them not being nice. But the way that they spoke, she did not like, her soul did not like, meaning.
Yeah, she had a reaction.
She had a reaction. And, give that woman the word trigger, she will use it. She got triggered by him. And, what was interesting is that, I don't mean to, sound like a parent, but what I said to her is something that, my therapist would say to me, which is maybe you should look at, what it is about this person that is making you unable to separate your reaction to that person from that person. I don't think she was buying it. Bev.
Yeah, Bev wasn't having it.
No, I don't think she was ready, to hear it. But, the techniques that I've found for me are, continuing to keep the focus on myself as much as possible, meaning there's all sorts of times as a parent, as a partner, as a lover, where you have to, pick up on all sorts of different cues. But I'm trying to reserve that, really for the people who kind of need that from me the most, meaning that's not every single person I interact with, because that's sort of my tendency as an empath. I can take on all the things. I mean, just driving around, the city streets, there's a million opportunities to have your heart broken, So the more I don't mean focus on myself, meaning don't care about other people. I mean, when you're, pointing one finger at someone else, you're pointing three back at yourself. Think about it. So a lot of times for me, I've noticed that there's a desire to lose myself in someone else or lose myself in their experience or get all up in their business because I don't want to think about my own. And those are some hard lessons, but I feel like, I'm still learning them, I guess.
I've heard a technique described for people who are, find themselves having a really hard time listening to people who are struggling or, who kind of shut down, where they imagine that there's an energetic
that
basket.
Person has fallen off a cliff.
That they don't exist and they have no problems at all, and that the sound they're hearing isn't real. No, it's that there's an energetic basket in between them and the person. And
what do you mean basket?
It's almost like a bowl or
a holding space.
A holding space, exactly.
You put them in that basket?
You don't put them, but you have, instead of what they're saying.
Oh, it's like a moat.
That's an interesting way to think about it. I like this. I like the notion of how you described it as a holding basket, because instead of what they're saying sort of coming at the empath or the person who's listening and sort of attacking them and them not sort of knowing how to metabolize it, it instead lives in the space in between the two of you. That's
Space between.
And sort of it goes in there, you can interact with it from there, but it sort of gives the person listening a bit of a boundary where they can be active and engaged, but it's not sort of overwhelming them to the point where they have to shut down. So
it's like a little, it's like an emotional spillover.
Yeah. And I think that using visualization and imagination in that space can help, because I think what happens, and I can't speak for everyone, that when we get overwhelmed by someone else who is suffering or going through something, what we're doing is like we're feeling it so deeply, it's kind of hitting us, and we got to.
Is Bev an empath?
I don't know. But I think what happens is we get overwhelmed and we become uncomfortable with that. We don't know how to function.
Right.
And therefore we can't be as present with those people as we would like. And then we could come off as like uncaring or shut down. But really what's happening is that you're feeling it so deeply that your system is being overrun.
That sounds like a way that assholes can get away with convincing people that they're not assholes. I'm just so overwhelmed by what you're experiencing.
I feel you so much that I can't listen anymore or care. You're on your own. Thank you. That's really the flip side of being an empath.
That's amazing. Now you have to go back to every relationship you've ever had where that was the case.
All the people who have said they're empaths, I'd be like, really what's happening is not that we like labels here.
We don't like labels.
But you're a narcissist and you never cared.
It is a famous saying that I got from my rabbi. He did not say it, but he passed it on. If you think that the Bible is a science book, I've got better science books for you. It's not a science book. And even the most religious people don't believe that it is. And I'm speaking for religious people. The notion of truth is a very amorphous one in all religion and really in our existence in general. And everything I've ever learned about science makes me sure that I couldn't create it and can't change it. And everything that I've learned about religion has given me a way to appreciate the world of science with tremendous awe and trembling. I'm floored by the mysteries of the universe. And to me, I call that divine, and you don't have to.
Back together.
Together again. Still. Maybe always. Sure. I will say that there's a real ease to being alone, just like sitting here and like I had to do some ads, alone. And, when you're alone, you don't have to think about anybody else. You don't have to worry, are they going to do their lines right? And, do they have different pacing than you? And, you can do stuff whenever you want. I didn't have to worry about your schedule when I did that. Someone on our team may have even commented that I seem to be much more relaxed and in a better mood. I don't know. And
team member, I'd like to know who you are.
And then what I also realized is that there are certain things you can't do alone.
It's harder to make jokes by yourself.
It's harder to be interrupted by people who can't leave a tender moment alone. It is hard to make jokes when you're by yourself. It is hard to have your reality reflected back to you when you're by yourself. It's hard to have someone keep you honest because we often can't keep ourselves honest. There are certain things that happen in partnership that just don't happen alone. And it was also interesting to reflect on because, I'm a person who's kind of had a boyfriend, for example, from the time I'm like 16, really kind of pretty much straight through to like being married. And then I've been divorced. And so like I've had a lot of time to be someone's partner, someone's helper, someone's mom, and being divorced, I've, gotten a lot of time by myself. So I've really gotten to have, that interplay and really kind of play with that. But I think it really is an interesting moment that's a little bit the struggle of introverts. There are so many things I enjoy about being alone. There are so many things that are more convenient, easier. And also it can be lonely, it can be lonely. So I'm very glad you're back. Now he makes a joke because it's too intimate.
I'm glad I'm back, making your life more difficult, but also reflecting your reality. So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I kind of heard a mixed bag, but I'm going to take it nonetheless.
Mayim's beauty is that she's very complex and very complicated. And Mayim's not going to function like a Kelly or a Hunter. I mean, no, God bless her. She's got a brain that's different.
Bev, if you and I had to design a mantra for Mayim right now.
Oh my God.
Let's do a little workshopping.
Okay.
What would our mantra be for Mayim?
I am whole. I am enough. I am the world.
Oh my God.
Let me be.
The only part of that mantra I like is let me be.
But people don't let you be.
I'm going to wake up every morning and say, let me be.
I am whole.
I am whole.
I am enough.
I'm enough. I'm
the world.
Let me be.
Let me be. I love it.
Thank you.
Jonathan, it's very hard to pick what the best of us is. We're creating it as we speak.
You know what people should do? They should subscribe to the YouTube page and then go over to Instagram at Bialik Breakdown and tell us which moments they like the best out of that.
Maybe there were moments that we're missing. Tell us what those are too, and we'll do another mashup. But in the meantime, we will be busy creating many more of our best moments. And we will see you next time. I will not be tan anymore, but we'll see you in the fall.
I hope everyone's having a good summer.
Jonathan hopes everyone's having a good summer. From our breakdown to the one we hope you never have. We'll see you next time.
It's Mayim and Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, and now she's gonna break down. It's a